Okay, is everyone ready? Okay. Welcome, everyone. Let's get underway with our work session today for Tuesday, May 12th. This is, I think, going to be a really great update for our work session on the South Davis Greenway feasibility study. I have gotten to participate in this work group with the other cities quite a bit, and I'm excited for the rest of you to get up to speed on where things are progressing and how it's going. So I'm going to turn time over to Francisco, and then I'm sure that Francisco is going to involve the consulting team too as well.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the update of the South Davis Greenway feasibility study, a regional planning effort evaluating the potential for a continuous multi-use trail and pathway corridor extending from North Salt Lake to Salt Lake City. We've partnered with us, Bountiful, with Centerville, Farmington, and North Salt Lake in this specific effort, focusing on improving regional connectivity, recreation opportunities, and active transportation options throughout South Davis County. The study, and Mr. Brent Crowther will go into a little bit more detail than my quick intro here, will evaluate potential alignments, pathway design concepts, roadway crossings, utility constraints, implementation considerations, and long-term partnership opportunities. This current effort, the actual feasibility study, is being funded through the Transportation Land Use Connection Program through Wasatch Front Regional Council, where they put up most of the money, and then we put up, each city contributed $7,500 from our funds, and then we had a matching grant for 115, totaling 145,000, as indicated on the staff report. The Greenway concept is consistent with several goals and policies found in the Bountiful City General Plan, and just want to remind the council and the public that at this stage, the study remains conceptual and exploratory. No final alignment, design, or funding commitment or construction schedule has been established, in that we believe that this study will help us be in a better position should we move forward in the future. Representing the consultant team tonight is Brent Crowther. He's a professional engineer with Kimley Horn. He serves as the project manager. And I think the best thing about him is that he is a North Salt Lake resident, and he's on their Trails Committee. So whatever product, or not product, but a project comes out, it's his reputation, and that he's our neighbor here. And he's one of many working on this. So at this time, I'll just turn the time over to Brent, and we'll go through the presentation.
Thanks, Brent. Thanks for coming next door.
Great, thank you. And I should clarify, Oak Hills Elementary, Mill Creek, Bountiful High graduate. So at heart, a Bountiful resident. So it's always really fun to work on projects in your own backyard. Just thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. We want to just give you an overview of what we are up to here. We started the project in about September of 2025, so just about 6 or 7 months ago. And as Francisco mentioned, it is a collaboration between the 4 South Davis communities. The purpose really is to identify an alignment and the feasibility of a shared use path, a greenway that would extend from US 89 and Eagle Ridge Drive there by the Starbucks north all the way to Farmington. Some really great opportunities with the timing. The I-15 reconstruction project will construct a new shared use path running from Highway 89 at the Starbucks, taking you all the way into past Capitol Hill, and that'll be a separated, dedicated shared use path. And then the I-15 reconstructed project will also reconstruct the portion of the I-15 frontage road near Chase Lane and up in Farmington and Centerville for the northern part. And so that's, once those are constructed, we just need to fill in the gap in between Centerville and North Salt Lake, and then we will have a continuous separated shared use path all the way from Farmington into downtown Salt Lake City. The Greenway will fill a critical gap on the east side. On the west side of I-15, we have the Legacy Trail. It's a bit more of a different context where you have it more open, terrain, open space. We're much more constrained, urban, and developed on the east side, but we don't have a facility where we have higher concentrations of people, higher density, higher proximity to the use to help people who want to walk, bike, recreate, and commute. The other great funding, or the other great opportunity we have with the timing of this project is Governor Cox, about 3 years ago, introduced what we call the Utah Trail Network. And the program is funding $45 million per year to construct facilities such as this at locations all across the state. They recently completed a master plan that shows the statewide network. They've likened it to the freeway network of the pedestrian and bicycle network, so people can go from community to community in a safe, protected, and comfortable manner. This project is designed to position that the South Davis Greenway for consideration for funding by the Utah Trail Network. And we've been in coordination and communication with the Utah Trail Network team, and they are aware of the project. We are constructing the project consistent with their criteria and their guidelines to best position this project for funding by the Utah Trail Network. I want to just spend a few minutes on what is a greenway. And I believe, Francisco, this is the video that will just roll up here for a second.
I hear it from citizens all the time that they love places to walk and bike with their kids on their own, go jogging.
In Davis County, we have a great mountain trail network that we've been working on, but where we're lacking is our active transportation, our ability to move people safely around the city.
The South Davis Greenway is a big idea.
It's going to be a separated pathway, and it's going to allow users to be able to get to and from different places, but do so in a way where they're separated from traffic so they feel safe and they have plenty of room to navigate.
This project will include active transportation users that are not comfortable engaging with the current situation with vehicles.
We have road widths that are wide so that we'll have plenty of space to accommodate vehicles and the greenway, and some buffer space that'll separate the two. It'll really make for a pleasant experience for both those in cars and those utilizing active transportation.
The great thing about this is it goes kind of through the community. And so that helps in accessing commercial areas, our library, some of our schools and parks.
And it provides then a beautiful way for you to get from point A to point B. I think there's been some good thought put into where the actual greenway would be located, how it connects between the cities.
It's kind of going to serve as a backbone to the community.
It's going to be able to provide more trail access to thousands of our residents.
Really the most important thing, I think, is just the family-friendly feel of this corridor that we can create and make it accessible.
Or being sure that your kids have a safe ability to travel and maybe pop down to Main Street for some ice cream.
Or maybe even commute. They can get to the Front Runner station in Farmington, or they could go all the way to downtown Salt Lake City.
Just the health of our community in general.
Can we work together, city to city, North Salt Lake, Bountiful, Centerville, Farmington, to create something that serves our residents across all of our cities?
The coordination between the cities, I believe, is really, really good. It seems like everybody is kind of on board, wants to make this happen.
When our cities work together, we're driving down the cost a little bit, the cost of designing it, engineering it, and we can pursue pots of money that are out there much more effectively together.
The feasibility study is going to run through the summer of 2026. Partners will then begin to assess how to fund and figure out when the projects will take place.
Go to southdavisgreenway.org. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. We've had that video posted up for a few months and gotten lots of great feedback, comments from the community, and most of which are supportive of the project. We also have a few that have expressed concerns that we'll be discussing more with our technical advisory committee, et cetera. Just a little bit more about what is that greenway. It is a dedicated paved shared use path designed to support all modes of rolling. As mentioned, recreational commuting purposes, physically separated. So this is different than a on-street bike lane. This is physically separated both in space and above the curb so that those who are age 6 or age 80 both feel comfortable walking or riding a bicycle on this facility. We call that a low-stress environment so that they reduces the interface and the interaction with adjacent traffic. The greenway can also be enhanced with landscaping, signage, and amenities that reflect the local character of the community. We recognize the maintenance burden that this could put, and so our advisory committee has really emphasized low maintenance, low water usage consumption on the landscape features, focused more in nodes. As we walk along the corridor, this is a Saturday morning, and these are photos from the Second West, Fourth West, et cetera, on which the concept alignment is planned. And these are the people that we would anticipate using the greenway. Currently, you can see they're in the street. They want to walk in the street because there's not room on the sidewalks. Throughout my jog here, I saw just a couple of people actually using the sidewalk because they want to be together on the street. And you can see very wide shoulders through much of the corridor in which we have room to construct the facility, including dog walkers and people jogging, one on the sidewalk and one on the street. So these are the types of people, they're us, those that want to recreate, and those that want to commute. The greenway can take a lot of forms and functions. This is an example from Indianapolis, Indiana. This is a very high-end greenway with a very urban design focus, a lot of landscaping to make it beautiful and a tourist attraction, frankly. This attracts people from around the region who want to go use this Indianapolis Cultural Trail, and it really has created a lot of development along the trail. It's been a great benefit to the city. This is an example that has more of a park-like feel in Maryland. This is an example in State Street in Provo, very much more of a common, the shared use path with just basic turf infrastructure. So this greenway doesn't have to be high-end. I would expect most of it look to more lower end for landscaping purposes. This is an example of the 9 line in Salt Lake City. They had some wide streets on 9th South, and they actually moved the curbs into the street and were able to construct this shared use path of facility along 9th South. This is an example of a shared use path that was recently constructed in Park City, Utah. That photo on the right is actually a rendering. We do have now aerial images of its completion. And it can be adjacent to the roadway, but wide enough for people to walk side by side, walking, bicycling, or rollering. The greenway initial alignment is planned in conjunction with our stakeholder committee to start there at North Salt Lake, Highway 89 and Main Street, and then follow Orchard Drive up to the intersection of 2600 South, and then we would continue north on 200 West, adjacent to the city cemetery, and then where it changes into 400 West as we get into Centerville, you're staying on the same roadway, and then we turn to the west on Chase Lane down to the I-15 frontage road, and then we continue north on the I-15 frontage road up to 200 West in Farmington, and then we terminate the greenway there at State Street at 200 West in Farmington, where the green line is showing the green arrow there at the far right up towards Farmington. That would be a future extension up into Kaysville that the city of Farmington has been discussing cooperation with Lagoon and some of the major property owners up in that area. This is an example of the cross-section of what that could look like. We're designing a 12-foot shared use path where whenever we have the right-of-way available, we want it to be separated by a 6-foot buffer, and that could be, have some street trees or some low-level landscaping, where we have some nodes of availability, have more of a pocket park type of feel. Adjacent to the travel lanes, 11 to 12 feet. We also have sections where there are maintain the two-way left turn lane throughout most of 200 West and 400 West, and then maintain the existing sidewalk on the other side of the street. I'll just run through some of the images in Bountiful. These are not all of them. We do have a complete alignment that we can share those files with you. But this is what it looked like. This is beginning around 3600 South. You can see there's the church building there, kind of just south of the old Weinigers site there, intersecting with 3400 South, and we're proposed to be on the east side of the road through this section. This is an example of that cross-section running through adjacent to the Bountiful City Cemetery. 200 West here is very wide cross-section. We can construct the greenway on the east side of the road and have enough room to maintain the travel lanes, and in some sections we have enough room to maintain on-street parking through there as well. This is an example as we approach the 5 Points intersection, again on 200 West. You can see there adjacent to the existing park. We can enhance those with some amenities connecting to the trail. We cross through the roundabout. We do have a minor right-of-way impact, one of only a couple of impacts within the project. And then we cross the road to get on 200 West, and then we continue 200 West over to Main Street. And we continue along 200 West. This is an illustration near the South Davis Recreation Center, where we're able to maintain all the existing travel lanes when we engage with the park, Bountiful City Park, and then we continue along 200 West and then into 400 West, connecting into Bountiful City or Centerville City and Farmington. Some of the decisions that will be made as we evaluate the greenway, there will be sections where we will lose on-street parking, particularly on 200 West adjacent to kind of the power company, Bountiful City Power, north of between 5th South and 400 North. We'll need to decide where we want some of those focus nodes, the level of vegetation and plantings. The stakeholder committee has indicated a preference for no turf per some of the ordinances adopted within the city. We'll need to discuss irrigation approaches, whether it's a separate irrigation system or whether it's tied into adjacent property. We need to talk about maintenance responsibilities for the landscape, and then some of the services, making sure we can maintain trash pickup as people put their cans on the road, and maintain access for garbage pickup. We have an upcoming demonstration project on June 26th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. adjacent to Bountiful City Park, where we will be actually using some cones and some bollards to encroach into the street right-of-way to demonstrate how the greenway would look adjacent to most of the project. It's the first night of the Concert in the Park series, and so we expect a lot of people to be out there and to be able to have the opportunity to become familiar with the project. So that is the overview of the greenway, and I am happy to answer any questions or discussion that you may have that I can help with.
Mayor, could I?
Please.
Snow removal responsibilities?
Generally, UDOT has taken the position that they will construct the project, assuming we receive Utah Trail Network funding. They have generally entered into agreements with the local jurisdictions to provide snow removal responsibilities. And so we would expect that would be responsibility of the city. We have had discussion with the cities if there would need to be a kind of a joint procurement of a small plow that would be capable of doing that on the greenway. And that's part of the future maintenance considerations that needs to be considered as a project advances.
Any other questions?
Just, it looks like, once it could be completed, there'd be connectivity, like you say, all the way to Salt Lake, and I can visualize in my own mind quite a few people maybe taking advantage of that on bikes. Bikes and walkers really don't go that well.
Yeah.
And I worry about that. What have you guys talked about with that? Because if it really becomes this corridor, it's a little bit of challenge between those two.
Yeah, and that's why it's 12 feet wide, and it's with the anticipated usage, and 12 feet is enough for passing of bicycles with pedestrians. That is a common issue on Legacy, on all of these where you have higher speed bicycles with the slower speed walkers, and it really does come down to trail etiquette. But the 12 feet is wide enough so you can have 2 or 3 people walking on one side, and you have enough room for the bicycle to pass on the other side. So that is why the minimum design criteria of the trail is 12 feet to provide that passing and the multiple uses. If you get narrower than that, then you start getting into conflicts where the bicycles have to stop and people have to move around, but the 12 feet does allow enough room for the passing.
With the businesses down there on 200 West and Bountiful between 4th North and 500 South, I think there's just right at that southern part. With
Near 500 South, you say?
Yeah, the parking, what are the ideas there? Because a lot of those businesses, there's just right, south of Bountiful Power, those.
Yeah, like Smoking Bones,
all
barbecue,
those,
things like that.
Do you think there's going to be enough room to have parking for those businesses?
That's one thing that we have also talked about, and we haven't had a resolution whether there's room to replace a parking, if it's encouraging kind of on the side streets, or if there's a district parking. I believe Francisco maybe could clarify, there may be a publicly owned lot in that area, if I recall some of the discussions, but those are some of the considerations that we need to evaluate. If you look at the parking, it is used on occasion. It's not 24 hours, right? It's maybe during some lunch rushes, and so those are certainly valid issues that as a project advances, to have those discussions with the stakeholders and to identify what some of those mitigation measures might be. We also hope that providing access to different modes, people it would increase a number of people coming to those businesses well on a Saturday, or increasing people be able to get to Main Street to the ice cream store because they're, hey, let's go hop on the Greenway and then head out to dinner, et cetera. And so also recognize that the economic benefits of a project like this, as they've seen on the 9 line in Salt Lake City. If you've been out there, you've seen the redevelopment projects that have happened as the street's been reconfigured and the 9 line trail has been implemented.
Thank you.
Brent, could you go back on your slides where you started to show the sections in Bountiful?
Yes. Right.
Particularly this section on 200 West around 5th South? Oh, we didn't have.
I don't think I had that one.
Okay.
He's got it at 4th North.
Okay. Okay,
We could
that's
quickly
okay.
pull it up if we need to.
That's okay. I think the point I was just going to share is that as we've been going through the work group and the video, you saw the big maps that were laid out downstairs and broken into city sections and going through them section by section. Some of those things about, should it be on the east side, the west side, impacts to power poles, how many driveway entrances, parking, have been some of the things that have dictated, which side of the street it's on and why.
Are those, all those maps and all of those things, is that what's going to be at the park here later in the?
Yeah, we'll have layouts of of the alignment at the park.
Okay.
We can also provide those to you. We have the files that we've shared with Mayor Bradshaw and Francisco and staff, that those certainly could be made available, and you can look at those in detail right away.
And I have a copy in my office that any of the council are welcome to.
That would be great. If we can get a copy, Francisco?
Absolutely. If I may add a quick comment about parking on Second West. Unlike Main Street, where we have marked parking spots along Main, both in diagonal and parallel parking, Second West is a different animal in that it's more of a extra area for the travel lane where people have always parked on. We don't have, I don't know if, Lloyd, I'm safe to say that we don't have an active parking standard or program. Not, I shouldn't say program, but there is no active parking on Second West other than the lane. It's a one travel lane with an extra area, so a lot of people have utilized that for parking for quite some time. Is that a fair representation, Lloyd?
That element was by design, so it was intentional. That one's gonna take a minute to figure out some solutions there. And it's shown right now with the left turn lane, and maybe that's something we need to revisit and take a second look at
The
that.
two-way center left turn lane?
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember that whenever we have a problem on the freeway, Second West becomes the 215. And that's going to present its own challenges. Thank heavens it's not very often, but we do need to remember that.
More so than 500 West, I guess, probably first 500 West and then it spills back. to
Anything
200
north,
West.
south just immediately clogs up. Yep.
I will say, just in full transparency, we own a business and it happens to be right there on Second West.
My family patronizes your
And-
business.
So we do use parking every day. My husband parks there every day. I'm not saying that he wouldn't not be willing to park there every day, but it would impact a few businesses. But that most of his staff, I think if all of their staff parks on the street.
On the street.
So patients can park in the parking lot. So if there's what lot there is a city?
There is no lot.
Oh, there is no lot.
No, there's
Oh,
No
okay.
publicly owned parcel.
no,
Well,
no, we don't have any. I mean, other than a quick reminder that each business is supposed to fulfill and provide enough parking for themselves in private property. Everything else is free for, anyone could go ahead and park in front of your business. Obviously, it's not reserved for the exclusive use of anyone, but that's just a function of how the street was built.
Yeah,
I wonder if
just
Brent is thinking
transparency
of
on
our,
my sake.
of our parking area behind the Twig Library building, where we have parking that we own there. It's not immediately close to 200 West, but I
Oh,
wonder if that's where he's
yeah,
thinking.
that's Main Street, yeah.
Mayor, could I provide a little clarity for Second West?
Sure.
Being a resident of Second West, that unnamed extra area that Mr. Astorga's talking about, yeah, that's street parking. So, just so that we get that into the record, what that actually is, it's street parking. So, anyway, I just didn't want it to be confused with some other nebulous area like interstellar space or other unnamed areas. Thank you.
I can't resist. Is there any potential for that lot behind your house to be a parking area?
Is there any potential for the front part of the power department's additional storage space to be public parking? Who knows?
It's an
Sure, I'll sell
exciting
my whole
project.
place.
Yeah, it's great. I think that the council has lots of ideas for parking.
Yeah,
It's an exciting project. I think
there you go.
there's a lot of amazing things about it, so.
West Parking Incorporated.
I think this is very exciting. I think it opens a lot of potential, and as not a mountain bike rider, but a just like nice level places bike rider. I think this is fantastic, with obvious things to work through. I was just curious, this isn't a really a big question, but how did this begin? What's the origin of this concept?
Do you mean the origin of like greenways in general, or this particular one?
This particular
Okay.
project. You want me to?
We could both answer it.
Yeah. Yeah.
2, 3, go.
I believe the project idea, I believe it's documented in your general plan, at least that's what I read in the, so the concept has been around. The council member Ted Knowlton at the city of North Salt Lake has been a great advocate as UDOT has constructed or done their workshops for, Utah Trail Network and another program they call the Beehive Bikeways, and really trying to expand the ability of active transportation throughout the region. The idea came up, why don't we have something like this in South Davis County? What do we need to do? And so he was able to start working with staff and elected officials from each jurisdictions to gain enough support to put together matching funds for WFRC, then to provide the grant funding to do the feasibility study. It always does take a champion, an idea, and then it takes people to support and to learn about the idea, and no one person can do it by themselves, but when we get a community involved, that's how we can make big changes happen. But the idea did come from him, is my understanding.
And I just wanted to add, I was going to bring Beehive Bikeways, which is a program from WFRC. At the same time, when the state, who may or may not have been collaborating with WFRC with the Utah Trail Network. So it all came to be about the same time, where it was formulating and identifying opportunities where municipalities don't have many active transportation opportunities.
Is the Utah Trail Network, is that the bill or entity that might have some money? Is that
Yes,
correct?
and I think their name is sometimes a little bit confusing about whether it's dirt trails versus like paved active transportation trails, because the state does have different grant programs and entities. And so this Utah Trails Network is much more in line with active transportation, paved trails, coordinating with, for us, the Wasatch Front Regional Council is our AOG, and coordinating with UDOT. Whereas some of the other trails grants that we are working on up on the mountain that come through the Division of Outdoor Recreation are about dirt trails. But sometimes when you say trail in our community, everyone thinks, dirt trails and inclines and things like that. So this one is, this was one of Governor Cox's kind of signature proposals a few years ago, and funded it in the boom years right after the pandemic. And so that's where it got its funding, and that's where it lives.
Do we have any idea of how much is in that, and how much will we?
45 million was the initial investment into it, and they haven't spent it yet because they've just been doing this master plan. And I do think we owe a debt to our friend and neighbor, Councilman Knowlton in North Salt Lake, because he was the one that reached out to Bountiful and to the other cities to say, economies of scale, connecting all of our communities, we should at least study this together. He has also been one to make sure that it stayed on the radar for the master planning at the state level, to ensure that we stayed high in that queue for potential funding by making it into the master plan. And
Would you foresee that? Is that typically how this would be funded, kind of like a matching? Like the cities pay so much and then you get so much of a grant? Is that how that works?
I'll defer to Brent on this one. My guess is because this is going to be the first tranche, it's all still kind of new, but.
Yeah, the trail network does not require local match. Federal grants often require a 20% match. The Utah Trail Network does not require a local match, so it could be 100% state funded. There are needs all over the state many communities are asking for the funding. So I think it's pretty safe to say those who do bring a local match that emphasizes the local desire and could help in making that money go further, but it does not require local matching. There are federal grant funds that are available also, other funding sources. It's not just Utah Trout Network, but we would expect that would be one that we would target in the near term.
Another question, if I could, Mayor.
Please.
What kinds of vehicles would be allowed on this?
Bicycles and pedestrians, no motorized vehicles.
So no scooters,
Scooters.
gas
yeah.
or electric?
With the new, and maybe you have a better understanding up to speed on the new e-bike regulations, but the new regulations better define what a bicycle is. I wouldn't expect any throttle driven, you call them vehicle, pedal power or scooter power.
Okay.
So, you want lower speed, probably 15 to 20 miles per hour at the most for those bicycles, and that would be going pretty fast. The bicycles who want to go fast should use other facilities.
Okay. And I want to clarify too, I love the idea. In fact, I love the idea going right past my house. So don't take my offhand parking comment as an indication that I'm not in favor. Love it.
And I think from the new law that Brent is referring to just went into effect on the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the one that Representative Cutler worked on that we had talked about in previous meetings. And it does create new classifications for pedal assist versus throttle up to 20 miles an hour. And there is a category for like electric scooters as well. But I think if we want, the idea is that our residents don't feel safe, and I would ask, does anyone would you feel safe hopping on your bike or getting like a jogging stroller and jogging down sections of 200 West? I think we'd all say that doesn't sound super safe to get around town. So what would, if we build a facility like this and people are doing that activity, then what level of speed of other things on it still keeps the safety element versus those that need to just move into the road and act and feel like more like a traditional vehicle.
Yeah, the differential speed between a 25-mile-an-hour scooter and a mother with a stroller or a father with a stroller, that's still significant and uncomfortable for those folks.
Yeah, and weight, the weight and speed in a collision are different,
Mhm.
right? So those would all be thoughtful things. The other thing sorry, Brent, is still any thunder you have, but if we could go to the slide around Bolton Elementary. Bolton, this is an area that,
I thought about putting every single
and then I picked
sheet
the
in
two
here.
that you didn't pick. Sorry about that, we didn't
And I
quite.
thought, they don't want that long of a presentation, and so I just
Sorry.
selected a few
Okay.
slides.
We like details.
As we're all aware, there's portions of Orchard near Bolton that don't have sidewalks. And we sometimes have feedback from residents about kids walking to school and feeling unsafe as they approach Bolton Elementary. And, South Davis Junior High would also be nearby. And one of the things that I found exciting about this project and looking at this alignment is the fact that we could funnel some people to Orchard Drive to then have that safe transit to Bolton Elementary.
You look at all the schools and community centers that are on this corridor. You start with Bolton Elementary, Orchard Elementary, South Davis Junior High, and then you go up the corridor, you have the Recreation Center, you have Centerville City Park, you have another Centerville Park, you have Farmington Park, you have just Farmington Junior High, it's Viewmont High School are all adjacent to the corridor. So it really is an opportunity for hopefully changing the way a lot of those children and teens access school. I could see with a facility like this, you'd have a lot more teenagers willing to get there to Viewmont High School on a facility like this.
A lot more comfortable athletes during track conditioning as
Yeah,
well. as
sure,
soon as the
sure,
weather
exactly,
breaks.
yeah.
Could we go back to the cemetery section?
I do have that one.
I know, I do remember that. Oh, okay, never mind. I was thinking of parking for when there are services at the cemetery, but I forgot about that, the parking that's within the cemetery on those roads. Oh, that's true. Any thoughts about that? Would we build a parking lot when we
As
expand the
those roads
cemetery?
disappear, it means we're also not doing as many services on
Services.
that side, because we'd be putting our permanent residents on the other side, where they would start to have new roads.
But would there still be places for people to put cars if they want to visit said residents?
Yeah, I think so as.
Would we keep that
as
side
we-
road?
As we build out the new side, and Gary and Lloyd, if you want to chime in, we would be adding roads to service the layout of the cemetery
Yeah,
expansion.
I understand on the east side, but the west side, would all of those roads go away eventually? No, okay, that
No,
was my question.
that's a great question because of the prior conversation about Pine Street and things. There will be intermittent roads that will be going away, but there will still be at least
Some
at least
access.
half the roads in that old section will still be there.
Okay, as long as there's some access for, a widower wanting to visit his wife on her birthday or something.
I plan to be a permanent resident there at some point. Maybe someone will visit.
And it's amazing how many walkers you see. You
Ah.
just, and if they had a facility like this, I think you would
It's a
see
popular
fewer
place.
walkers in the cemetery and more on a facility like this because they don't feel safe walking in the road like this.
I've walked there before.
Mayor, could I ask Brent and/or Francisco to talk about something? There are sections of this, and I'm thinking of some particularly in North Salt Lake where there are a lot of driveways and residential driveways. What's the conversation been about those areas?
We don't have the detailed survey. All we, in North Salt Lake in particular, kind of on the west side of the road, you got a lot of grade and slope issues. We have quantified the number of driveways and we're reflecting those in our cost estimate, but we will extend the driveways through the greenway. And so we are looking to tie in, have as little impact on private property as possible, and all the tie-ins would be within the right-of-way on the public side. And so really trying to minimize the impacts to private driveways. There may be some short segments of transition, but really trying to make sure in the design we have enough room for all of those transitions to happen within the right-of-way on the public side. But those are one of the big cost components of the project, certainly, and we are quantifying, and I have the data on exactly how many. I'll be presenting those next week to Francisco on how many driveway impacts and power poles and such.
I know there are other trail facilities in the state that deal with that, and I'm thinking of, you may have a picture here
Yeah, we
of one or
do.
two of them. Thinking of Salt Lake, yeah. Could you maybe show on that how that functions and what's expected of people using driveways and parking across the greenway and things like that?
Yeah, do I have a pointer on here, Francisco? Or is it just a?
It's in your device. I don't know how to use it yet.
Well, you can see the previous curb line of 9 South was probably 10 or 12 feet towards there, yeah.
I have a pointer.
Inward. There you go. Somebody's pointing.
I have it.
And so basically what they did, they took the curb and moved it into the street and narrowed the travel lanes. And so what we basically do, we still have the driveways crossing the greenway, the 9-9. And so it's basically extending that concrete pad across the driveway, and then the apron is constructed further into the street and tying into the street that way. But you can see there, on the 9 line in particular, they really didn't have to impact a lot of, because they were this side of the curb. It was almost all the improvements were in the street. And that's a similar facility with this. Almost all the improvements are moving the curb into the street, and so you have room for the tie-ins on the public right-of-way.
Thanks.
But it is a cost item for sure, and it gets tricky design when you start working on that.
I guess for me, as we go forward, the things that I'm most curious to get to the bottom of, as far as just line items, is just the cost of snow removal and what that is going to look like, not only from an equipment standpoint, but also labor and just time and all of that. I mean, we have a pretty amazing streets department, but I just want to make sure that we're approaching that correctly. And so that's one of my big questions. Parking, obviously. And then I had one other thought, and I think it was about driveways, but it flew out of my brain because I didn't write it down. All in all, I think it's a lovely idea. I would use it. I know I would. And the map that you showed, it seems to make sense, but I just want to get down, what are the numbers going to look like? And
The numbers of,
the funds
Oh, how- maintenance and
on
construction.
maintaining it
Yeah.
in the summer, and, I guess in the summer as well, those park strips.
landscaping.
Are we planning to place trash bins down on it? And so it's not only trash removal from residents, but also having our parks department empty trash bins. I'm just curious to know just the cost and how we anticipate maintaining that stretch. But all in all, I think it's a phenomenal idea, and I'm excited to see how we can make it work, and if we can make it work, and if we can't make it work, and all of the things, so.
Yeah, those are all important decisions. We don't anticipate that every city will do it the same way. There's room for North Salt Lake to do it differently than Bountiful, different than Centerville, different than Farmington. So as a project is funded, those decisions will need to be made locally. We do want some common elements. The future studies will identify what are maybe some of the unifying signage or, wayfinding or landscaping themes. But in terms of how those will be taken care of, those will need to be local decisions. UDOT, their current policy is that would be locally maintained. The Utah Trail Network legislation does allow for maintenance to be paid for from the funding, but their current policy has not enabled that at this point. Whether that changes in the future, those are discussions, I think, more so in rural Utah, where they just don't have any of that capability, the staff resources. It's a bigger question when they construct these trails of who's going to maintain it. And so those are ongoing discussions that they indicate they will have some clarity towards the end of the year what the policy recommendations are with respect to maintenance. But as of now, it's locally maintained.
Mayor, can I ask one last question?
Yes, go ahead.
You've kind of thrown out the number of costs several times. I'm assuming it's way premature to even know what this is looking like. Is that true?
Do I want to announce it here in a public forum before before we vetted it with our advisory committee?
I think I might suggest that we save that so that all the cities get it at the
That's
same
just
time,
fine.
if that's okay.
That's just
Okay.
fine.
I would say, I think we are, all the cities are interested in that. It's a huge factor. The other thing I'd say is we are on the front end since the governor announced this, then it took time to do the master plan. So, there's money sitting in the bucket right now, and the goal would be to get as much of it, but cost to construct plus, the ongoing O&M would be a factor. One thing I wanted to make sure we put up again, because we hit on it in his presentation, Brent's presentation, but the open house that's coming up, as we talked with the other cities about how to do an open house and where to do an open house, and, did you do 4 different open houses? Everyone actually liked the idea of an open house where people could actually see and feel what it would look like. And so then it became finding a central spot, that became us, and then finding in a summer event where people would maybe naturally be around. So that's where the idea of being ahead of the concert came from. So I think this would be a great thing to publicize to our residents, so that people know that they can come and look at it and see what it is and what it is not, and how it might make them, use and travel 200 West, at least for our section, 200 West and a little bit of Orchard differently. And then I, again, would just mention, Brent's team made some big map books, and I have a copy, and I'm happy to loan it out so you can flip through different sections in greater detail. I know he'll have really big maps at this open house.
Too big.
I don't know how you're going to display them, but I think it'll be great however you figure that out.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to scale them down a little bit.
Yes, what Lloyd is holding, there's a couple copies of those that we have that you're welcome to flip through.
If I could just, with respect to the funding and the implementation, we do expect that it will have to be phased. We've identified 5 segments. Segment 1 from the south end to 2600 South, segment 2 from 2600 South to the rec center, segment 3 rec center up to Chase Lane, and then you have the I-15 segment, and then you have the Farmington segment. The average dollar value of a Utah Trail Network project is around $8 to $10 million per project, and so I would expect this will need to be constructed in multiple segments, probably more than some of those segments may need to be phased into a couple of projects in and of themselves. So I could see this taking several UTN funding cycles because they don't like to throw all the money in one project in 1 year. They like to phase that and make sure they're distributing and meeting needs statewide. So we will be sharing more information about that and getting input from our advisory committee over the next 2 weeks on that.
I've just got one more question, if you don't mind. So you mentioned doing this in conjunction with the freeway overhaul. Do you, any more than that, do you have a rough estimate, timeline, wish list timeline?
For everything else outside of the I-15
Yes.
segments? The next opportunity to request funding is next spring, next March. The State Transportation Board is in the process of selecting the projects that are going to construction this call it the fiscal year 27 cycle. And so next spring, and I believe right now they are selecting 2 years worth of funding because of the backlog. So, and next spring, I think my understanding is they will be selecting 2 more years worth of implementation funding. So the hope is we have this project, we'll finish this project up this summer, and then that'll be all ready and to be considered for funding, at least the first segment or first phase within the 2028 fiscal year would be the ideal. And then that would take a couple of years to be designed and such. So probably earliest implementation that I can imagine is probably the 2030, 2031, sort of time frame. And then I could see it taking a few years on different cycles. So maybe 5 years after that, hopefully no more than a decade after that. So does that put the timeline too far out for you?
Well, I hope I can still ride a bike by the time it's done, so.
That's only 10 years. You've got lots of life ahead of you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. So I think we'll probably wrap there. Brent, thanks for popping next door. Always great to have someone come back home. You can always come back home. And I know everyone looks forward to learning more about the project. If you have shareable graphics that you've made about the demonstration project, if you'll get them to us, we'll make sure that we share.
Yep, we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very
We'll
much.
go ahead and adjourn our work session and be back in a few minutes for the full session.